Welcome, everyone, to our episode 84 of our podcast, Cultivating a New Generation. In today's episode, I have an honored guest, Amrita, and the title of our episode is going to be The Path to Peace. So, we are going to talk about how to end in that peaceful state and how to go into those spiritual um, pathways that we can find whenever we start living more in the present, and a lot of things we are going to cover today. So I'm going to introduce Amrita. She's a Jay Shetty certified life and success coach who specializes in emotional wellness and transformation coaching. Through her online school, Samsarga, she offers guidance, training, and support to empower women who have gone through toxic relationships and lost their true identity to rise above self-doubt and become self-reliant. Her coaching services have been featured on online magazines, New York Weekly, CEO Weekly, Influencer Daily, KVO Daily, and Disrupt. Her school also offers online courses in Sanskrit, Reiki training, vocal and Vina classes. She's also the host of the talk show The Peace Bridge on Voice America, a mentor on wisdom, a UC certified Reiki master, a speaker, Udemy Sanskrit instructor with over 10,000 students across 142 countries, if that is not enough, and a blogger on Medium and Core Spirit, and an Indian classical musician. So as you can see, the background is amazing. It's very, very multifaceted, and she has a lot of things that we are going to start talking how we are going to cover this path to peace. So thank you very much, Amrita, for being here, for being in this podcast. I think that the community of this show is going to really resonate with the topic.
Thank you so much, David, here for having me and also for sharing the kind introduction about me. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, Amrita, the first question is, how did you arrive into all of these entrepreneur and coaching realm?
Thank you for that question. It's a very interesting journey, if I may go back and recollect how I ended up. This was completely unplanned. I had no intention to get into coaching at all. 12 years back, I had a severe chronic illness, which actually led me to become bedridden in my life. So this happened when I was working in an MNC company, and there was a lot of workload, and I was taking a lot of work stress. So I was believing that all this work stress was only physical, and continued to put myself into a state where I was burning myself down. I did not realize this until my body started showing signs. So it started showing signs of numbness. It started showing signs of severe pain from head to toe, until it actually broke down one day when I was trying to get to my cubicle in my office. I was in a state where I couldn't walk. I was feeling very wobbly, and I felt like my entire body was just going to fall and collapse. So I called over some of my co-workers and somehow managed to reach back home. I understood that there was something going wrong here. So I consulted some physicians and came to know that I was actually having acute cervical spondylosis, and it required immediate surgery. But my family and me, we were not ready to go into a surgery because I had a 1-year-old baby at that time. So it was quite sure that this is going to take a lot of time to recover. So I thought, what can I do at this point? Because definitely this was not in a condition where I could physically get back to my job, or even mentally go through anything where I can recover back to life. So I approached some of my spiritual mentors at that time, and they actually guided me towards spiritual practices that I slowly started intaking into my life. So initially, it was with the oral medication that required to be consumed to get my body back to a good health. So, my spiritual master, he's no more at this point, but he actually helped to recover to a good physical state. But although I or got over this physical illness in a period of like 1 year, this question remained in my mind as to why am I actually going through this? Why am I? That was there every time I was actually healing and getting better. I was questioning myself, why do I have to go through this? What was the reason behind this? So I was questioning myself, and then one day I realized that it was my own mental suffering that was actually the reason behind this physical illness. I eventually realized this, and then thought, okay, how do I get to a place where I am at peace? And that was the initial question that led me to this journey. So that question was the trigger for me to start over this journey. So I experimented with everything that was around me. So I started off with my passions initially. When I had my physical health back in a place where I could start singing, I could start playing my instrument, Veena, I started from there. I began from there and made it a practice to do this as a ritual every day to see how my mind would transform. So it was making me feel good, but still I was falling into all those pits of like getting into negative emotions, negative thoughts, being there in that place where I go into people pleasing, look for better jobs, look for better homes, everything that I could to find happiness. And then I realized that none of these is actually getting me to the place that I want to, because every time I go behind this, I become disappointed. Why am I doing this? That became the next question. If this is not working out, what should be the answer to this? So from my early childhood, since I was brought up in a family where spirituality was considered a serious practice that was something that I had to inculcate into my daily life, like whether it's chanting mantras or doing yoga practice, all of these was very much encouraged in my family. So I started picking those again. I started picking from whatever I knew and started applying those into my daily life, and also started reading scriptures in Sanskrit. So I took this holy Bhagavad Gita and started reading it and understood that there was a lot of important life teachings that were conveyed through this holy book. And I started getting into the depths of the meaning of that and started seeing why is it being said, what are the ways to solve your problems in life. That's the way I actually looked at it and started understanding the meaning of it. But in spite of learning and understanding from books, spiritual masters, and other spiritual practices, none of these was still getting me to the answer that I was looking for. So I continued my quest, and I thought there's something inside me that required change. Everything that I was doing was external, whether it's spiritual practices, whether it's reading books, whether it was connecting with spiritual masters. All of this was helping me, but it wasn't bringing that internal change within me because I was not working on my thoughts or my emotions to start with. So then I began to see my interactions with others, be it in my family, be it in my workplace, everywhere there was some kind of disturbance. I was seeing the disturbances arising everywhere. And I was trying to fix these disturbances by changing events or people, which was not helping at all. So I then decided, okay, let me pick from one small change within myself. What can I start changing within myself today that can maybe bring a change in some interaction, be it at workplace or be it at family. So that's how I started with it. And then I slowly started simple, or I would say slowly started seeing simple changes around me. And I noticed that that little spark of positivity that I was spreading through my own change was radiating and bringing change in others. So when I saw this change, this became like a very interesting experiment to do every day, to see, okay, what if I do this and what will happen in my interaction? So that became like a fun experiment to do. And as I continued this experiment, I did not even realize that I was so much changing within. And then as I got to a place where all the past or whatever was holding me back was cleansing from my mind, the light came in to find what is more to life. What is more to life? I've now found that I can lead a peaceful life by working on myself, my mindset, my thoughts, my emotions, and my interactions with others. But what is more to life? What will make me feel fulfilled in life? That's when I started discovering my purpose. And this began when I connected with my coach, who helped me to actually find this purpose. So I spoke to him and told him that I want to share whatever I learned, whatever I'm understanding as the inner wisdom, to others in the community also, so that they can also experience the same peace that I'm experiencing. So while I was doing this, there were a lot of opportunities that actually showed up in my life in the form of teaching. So I started teaching Sanskrit to people around me. And when I was teaching, people started asking me questions as to the same thing, like, you are saying all this, how do we bring this to life? So even though I was teaching them, it was hard for them to implement it into their lives. And as I connected to my coach, I discovered that through coaching, I can bring that internal transformation within them so that they can also experience whatever I'm experiencing today. Yeah.
Mm. Such an interesting turn of events and a lot of turning points that you are mentioning. And I think I relate with many of them also, because we usually are programmed and trained to look for things to fill the voids externally. And we are also labeled many times with definitions of success, of the whatever path you have to walk and to demonstrate that you are valued, that you are worthy. And meanwhile, you are trying to prove the others what is being successful or what is really a good life. You are emptying yourself from a lot of things, and suddenly, until you get to a point where you feel those empty feelings, and that it's just, I relate that to where when you are eating and you are not full, and you could keep eating those kind of toxic foods, and you just are triggered, and of course the next day or even that night you can feel awful because you abuse of that food. And that's the same thing when we are doing those emotional things on us, and we are just building up a lot of toxic emotions. We are stuck in them, and we are just not letting the true messages go up and tell
Absolutely.
us and listen more to those messages. No.
So true. Yeah, so true. I had those kind of belief systems that were inside me, a lot of bias, a lot of things that I learned from my past. Like we all grow up with a lot of conditionings. And when we hold these conditionings and then look at every event or every person, that's how we picturize everyone, which is not true at all. So I had to break free from all of that to see the person or the event as it is, without any coloration, without any programming from my end, but just seeing them or those as they are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like using glasses and then changing the graduation of the glasses and seeing everything more clear or clearer because you are now picking up those messages that you have inside of you. And what would be the messages that um, you think your body was giving you? Because it's extremely important. And now that you mention all of those uh, sickness that you have or illnesses, how do you start picking up those messages? And when was like the drop that was falling from the glass that told you this is enough? I am not going to heal with uh, external things. This is a message that goes beyond the physical things.
Absolutely. That's a great question, David. So it was the day when I realized that I cannot even do the simplest chore of brushing my teeth. I
Mm.
was not in a place where I could do anything by myself. I was completely dependent on others for my basic chores. So this initially brought me frustration because I was very young, as you can imagine, a 1 year old baby. So I was just in my mid 20s and I'm going through this. And was completely frustrated. I was angry. I felt so shameful because everywhere, wherever I went, even for my consultations, I had to wear this collar around my neck. And I felt so shameful before others because obviously the way people used to perceive you, everything was hurting me at that point. It was hurting me. And I was asking myself, why me? Why should I go through this? So that frustration, anger, along with my values, I would say, my values and the trust in the power of God was the reason that I was able to come back because I had this strong perseverance and determination that I'm not going to give up here. Because if I give up, I have a baby waiting to be taken care of. If I give up, I am going to give up my dreams. I'm going to give up my hopes. I'm going to give everything that the life is waiting to offer me. So that place where I realized that do I want to continue to be this image which is perceived in this way, where she's completely dependent, she's not able to do even the simplest thing. Do I want to live like that? Or do I want to live strong? So that is what brought me back here.
Mm, nice. And now that you mentioned, and you also previously mentioned that it was an autoimmune disease, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm picking up well, and the story that you are telling about yourself was based mainly on not accepting who you are because you were a reflection of many beliefs that didn't match with what you wanted. So if you translate that to the science of how the body turns against you, that is an autoimmune disease, that is exactly what was being reflected to you. So the body wisdom was telling you, this is the disease. The disease is an autoimmune disease, which means that I'm rejecting something
Right.
that is myself. But you were rejecting a self that was created by the beliefs of people, of society, of a lot of programming, which is that now that we extrapolate that to the population that are also more now than ever coursing with those kind of diseases, of autoimmune diseases or chronic diseases, which are very similar in many ways of how the body defends, we can just pick up that line of thought and just analyze that for the people that are listening, so that we can pay attention that there will be several points in time where we feel that um, contradiction of ourselves inside of us. And every now and then, if we just listen to the body and listen to those subtle symptoms that is giving us, we can pick up those messages before they grow up, before it's um, more damaging the disease. So I think that what you did uh, by picking up the courage that you had inside of you to say that I am going to be strong, that's when you took your own self and you said, this is myself, my true self, the one that is strong. And I'm just going to peel the layers of the old self or the program self, and I'm going just to shed them, to just take them
Exactly.
away. And I believe that that's when your recovery start going up.
Very much, very much. That's exactly when, because that is when I decided to change. Until that point, I was not ready to change. I was in a place where I believed that like everything was my fault. I was blaming myself for everything, although there was no reason to blame. I was taking up all inside, as you said earlier. Like you are making yourself feel guilty for things that you're not even responsible for. Now that I think about it, I understand the immaturity behind that thought process and belief system that I had. But at that point, because there was no conscious living, I would say that my thoughts or my emotions, I was not conscious about them. I was just picking everything and then just going in all directions wherever events and triggers were pulling me. So this autoimmune disease was required for me to realize this truth. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And it is what happens with, I will dare to say that more than 90% of people, they usually have to be into those places to listen, to pay more attention to those signals, and to really question, is this me or is this the beliefs, and why do I let those beliefs become the person that I don't really like, or I am not really that person?
Yeah.
No. So you start asking those questions, and that's probably like when you are just like a knot of a string or something
Yeah.
that that is twisted and has to be um untwisted or unravel in order to get the truth, no? And that, I
Right.
think that that's a transformation process.
Yep, very much. It is a transformation process.
Yeah.
And it is, as you said, like those signals are so important to recognize because it is prompting you to take action for those. And if we ignore those, that's when it has these ripple effects and
Mhm.
becomes so adverse and uncontrollable to a point where you cannot bring it back.
Yeah. And I also have an experience not as big in terms of the disease, but
Yeah.
I was also picking up those messages from my body when I was working in the pharma industry, and I was just getting sick, not like a diagnosed disease, but I was depressed. I was just really tired. I was just trying to watch something to light me up instead of living, instead of just going out, instead of having relationships, instead of just being myself, because I could recognize that I was losing myself in that kind of environment, and that was my wake up call. That's when I said, when I was just tired of living the same movie and just watching the same scenes, and I said, this is not life. I mean, I have success in terms of the money, I have things, I am comfortable in an economic situation, but I feel empty. But I don't feel that this is the best of me. I was feeling that I was wasted, sort of saying, wasted in talent, wasted in the things that I really could do for people and could help, because I had always that spark inside of me of uh, just teaching. Also, I love teaching. I love passing the knowledge on and trying to learn more. I am avid of things to know, and I love to explain to people things, and I love to explain and see the transformation process in others also.
Yeah.
So I really really relate to everything that you passed, and
Right.
I think that there are a lot of people now that are questioning themselves more
Yes.
and more. Why am I in this job? Or why am I doing this? Why I don't feel excitement for life again? No, like I used to, or like when I was younger, I have, no?
Yeah.
So you start losing yourself. So
Yeah.
how do you see in your case, how did you saw that you were losing yourself? I mean, at certain point, I think, or I assume that you were just thinking, this is not me. This is a person that is tired and that is just getting into a point of toxicity where I have to say stop and just take a pause. No?
Yeah. Yeah. So, to give an answer to your question, it was completely my creation. That's what I understood. It was not because I was having any severe mental health issue or anything, but the way I was receiving signals from others, and we all do this in our daily life. When people communicate to us, everybody has their own belief system, everybody has their own way of interpreting things, and then translating it into our own language and then giving it a meaning. So that is where I was getting stuck. I was receiving the signals. There was nothing wrong with the other person who was giving the signals. I was interpreting it in a language with my own expectations, which I had my own definitions where this is supposed to be like this. This is the way things should be. And I was so rigid on those kind of belief systems from whether it's my workplace or whether it was my family, everywhere I had these strong expectations and beliefs about how a workplace should be, how my work should be. And all these should be's was creating the problem, which I realized very later when things were as you were asking, when did you understand that you were losing it? It was, I I was not able to change anything. I was not able to change anything at all around me. And then I was looking at, why am I actually going with this expectation? I started looking deeper into my expectations and started approaching each of these situations without expectations. Things became easier when I had zero expectations. So that is where I understood that everything that we conceive, when it is actually mixed with certain limited thinking and belief systems, it becomes our own creation of problems. When we don't bring in our limited thinking or limited bias or beliefs in there, then there is no problem. So that's how I understood that it was my thinking and my creations or creations of these movies, which I was playing in my mind, which was creating all this drama.
which is a beautiful analogy because when you were just talking about that, I was picturing a box, like a box that we create, and we are inside that box. And if something is not similar to the box, we just say that that's not enough, or that is not what I wanted, or that's not what I expected. Expectations create a lot of problems, a lot of future limitations, as you say. And when you just break the walls of the box, you free a space. No, you are free of those limitations that are just in our minds, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
and we all do that, and we do it very often.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And we have these kind of images for each person. Like, this is how I was. I was like having, like, okay, this person is this way. This person is this way. So you create certain kind of images in your mind. And I was interacting to those images, which is not true. This person is not that image at all, which I realized only after a very long time that these images are my creation and that person is not that image. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the perspective that each of us has of the things and of situation interactions, and just watching, for example, the same kind of movie. If you go to the movie theater and you go with your partner and you watch the same movie and you ask about any kind of a scene in the movie, you are going to have a very different interpretation of what happened when you just start talking about the movie, and you say, why do you think that? Well, because the belief systems are just different, because the emotional baggage, I like to call,
Yeah.
is different. No.
Right. Yeah. Everybody has a different set of baggage, as you said. And we use that baggage as our reference points for all these interactions and perceptions. And that's where the problem actually originates, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, which is also something that happens really. Also, I would say that it is also very often that some people have to be right, no? And that necessity of being right is just hiding the real self, because it feels vulnerable, because we are not used to being vulnerable. We have been also trained and programmed to hide our flaws, to hide our well, I wouldn't say defects, I would say areas of opportunity. Let's
Right. Right. Right.
and we are afraid of rejection, no?
Yeah. 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 And rejection doesn't have to be always looked at as a failure, because rejection is actually coming with a lesson. Every rejection has a lesson to build you stronger. It is actually giving you an opportunity to see where you need to correct yourself and grow back into your life. Yeah.
Yes, which that is also a big lesson for the people that are going to be listening to our conversation, because um, we are going to be rejected a lot of times in every aspect of our lives, in relationships, in friendships, in jobs, in projects, in everything. So the rejection is just, as you mentioned, the lesson that we have to take, the message that probably in those moments when you are rejected, of course, it's almost impossible to see it, because your ego has been hurt and your ego has been just thrown. But just give it a little time and just give it a little patience, and you will start to pick up the lesson if you just ask one single question. that I think is, why does this happen? And not to me. Why does this happen for me? No, you just change the preposition of to, and you change it for me, because it's giving me something to improve, no?
Right. Very true. Yeah. It is trying to see that in a positive perspective, seeing how you can utilize that rejection for your own personal growth. Yeah.
Yes, and I also used to do that when I was younger, in terms of when people were saying, well, you are not going to be able to win certain competition or whatever it is. And I said, no, I'm going to prove that I will do it. So because you are telling me that I'm not capable. So the same goes with life. Life is not going to tell you that you are not capable. It's just trying to give you the hints and the signals and the cues so that you start growing, no?
Very much. That's completely true because it is always giving you opportunity to come back and move forward. Yeah.
Yes, yes. As long as we are breathing and living, we have opportunities. We have
Yes.
opportunities. We have blank sheets of paper to write another day, to write another opportunity, and probably you will have another failure.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And that will be getting you closer to what you want,
Yeah,
no?
yeah. Failure, I believe it is completely required for you to understand the value of success because only when you fail, you'll work harder with the lesson learned from failure to proceed with much more strength to get to that success. As you said, like when you had those experiences where people or you had situations where you were going for competition and people said you cannot do it and you still said like no I can do it. It was you trying to challenge that and still go forward that helps you to keep that spark in you, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, and you can just see it as a game, as
Yeah.
a game that you are just uh, acquiring new skills to get into the next level, and there are endless levels in this lifetime because that's what we came for here. We came for growing in terms of our own personal striving, personal or thriving of certain kind of, I would say that is more spiritual growth, as you mentioned, and as we are talking to peace,
Yeah.
because the more we get into those spiritual levels of assembling the pieces, of recognizing our flaws, of asking forgiveness, and recognizing that we are not going to be right many times, that's the only way that we are going to start growing in terms of being more peaceful and being more um, satisfied and healthy in terms of feeling worthy, no?
Absolutely.
And what do you do with people when they approach you in terms of not feeling valued or feeling that they are worthy?
Mhm, mhm. That's a good question again, David. So, what I do is I begin working from their past because a lot of these are learned behaviors
Mhm.
and learned negative self talks that we uh, program ourselves with. So, I begin from helping them cleanse their past. So I use ancient wisdom based tools like meditations, mindfulness exercises, all of this to help them first cleanse that past so that they can start discovering who they really are. unless they actually remove all that internal noises that's actually preventing them from seeing their true personality, it is hard to tell them, hey, this is who you are. You cannot tell them this is who you are until they remove all that layers that was hiding this actual identity. So I help them beginning from their past, cleansing their past. Then I take them through this journey of discovering themselves. And once they have discovered themselves, that's when they start seeing whatever statements that they've been saying, like, I am not worthy enough. All of these are actually their own self criticism that they are putting into themselves. It's like they are feeding themselves with this. And I give them this perspective. And these are obviously through tools that I give them this perspective to see what are the opportunities that are available to this particular person. What is this person as they are? What are the values that they're built with? What are they actually having in their personality that they can call their strengths and all that? So I help them understand who they are, and then slowly move them towards developing their mindset. Because according to me, I strongly believe unless you have a powerful mindset, you cannot face the challenges in life. So I prepare their mindset so that they have this positive mindset towards approaching situations or people in their life, even if it's toxic people around them. How do you protect yourself? How can you have a mindset where you're able to protect yourself regardless of the situation, regardless of the people around you? How can you be still happy and peaceful? That's the kind of mindset I help them to develop. And once they have developed this mindset, I slowly move them towards mastering all the habits or tendencies that actually pulls them back, so that they can master those and then consistently lead a happy and peaceful life. So I call this my Unshakable Women coaching program. And it is through this Unshakable Women coaching program that I take them from wherever they are in their journey, stuck in their past, pulling them out of that place, helping them to develop the strong mindset and build stronger habits so that they can become powerful women.
Beautiful. Yes. And how do you define peace?
Peace is freedom from your inner voices.
Oh, great. Yes. I would agree with that definition. I also think that when we cannot leave blank our minds, but we can just release the messages, and as you say, just accept our own true self, no? And how do you recognize in the people that you will help through this program the messages from their true self? When this person is telling you, well, it's just that I am sabotaging constantly. I get to the place where I want to get, or I arrive to the weight, or I arrive to the money goal that I had. But then suddenly in just a matter of months, I start losing everything. How do you tell them, or how do you help them to recognize their true self and the still the residues of the old self that is sabotaging the new transformation?
Yeah, so how I help them is definitely through my coaching process, the one-on-one coaching process that I follow. I guide them through different questions, exploration that I go through these questions, which are deep questions that actually questions their thinking. It actually questions their thinking to a level where they start seeing that they are the one who are creating all of this. So I take them through my questions in a guided way to that deep place where this is emerging from. So sometimes it would be emerging from fear. Sometimes it would be emerging out of anger. Sometimes it would be emerging out of shame. So I take them to understand that deep core emotion that is causing all of these thoughts. And these thoughts are triggered during certain events. So I help them to see those events and ask them questions to understand what are the triggers that makes you things like this. When did you start experiencing this self-sabotage statement? What was the time when you were experiencing it? What were you feeling at that moment of time? When you were feeling that, what happened after that? So they might say, like, when I was feeling this, I was completely unmotivated to continue my work. So I left whatever I was doing, started procrastinating, and I couldn't continue to achieve my goals. That would be some of their responses. So I then asked them, okay, when you are procrastinating and when you're going through all of these, how are you feeling at that point? And they would say that they were definitely not feeling happy about it. So by questioning them and understanding the source and seeing what can help them to change that situation. So I would ask them questions as to what is in your power to change this. And this might help them to instigate that thinking to look at this problem in a different perspective, giving them challenges, giving them perspectives that would be something like, what would you do if your friend is going through this problem? How would you advise your friend? What would you do? And by giving them that a bigger perspective, what happens is they are able to see the problem differently or apart from the emotion. They are able to separate the problem from them, because when they keep the problem closer to them, mixed with their emotions, they are confused and they don't have the clarity to find the solution to the problem. Once they are able to separate the problem and the emotions and look at each of these separately, then they start seeing the solution arise from the same place.
Wow, that's a beautiful way of detaching the emotion and trying to just rise above and witness yourself with another example, with a role play, with a person that is not you, and probably because usually when we something in others, we are more prone to give advice and more
Exactly.
prone to just release that kind of wisdom that we have inside, but what we don't know how to use it on ourselves many times, no?
Yeah, very much. Every time you are always saying, like, I'm going through this, I am experiencing this, I am sad, and everything is I. So, unless they actually move out of that I and see the actual picture, it's hard to find the solution. And that's where I guide them through many different types of questions to help them see the problem and come up with that solution on their own.
Great, great way to give them that kind of wisdom and power, empower them to believe in themselves, to believe that they can do the work. And we are not our emotions, we are not being defined by that, we are just feeling those emotions, but that is just like the clouds that are passing, and we just have to recognize what shape is the cloud that I'm seeing in the sky, no? And
Yeah,
what does that shape is telling me about the deeper things that I'm feeling, no, or that I had in the past.
yeah. To give you an example, I had a recent client who actually came in, and she was expressing that she had this difficulty of speaking up in her workplace. She was not able to speak up with her authentic voice in her workplace. So when we started going through this exploration journey, um, she got to a place where she understood that there was this past scar within her that was making her hide herself from her early childhood, that was making her subdued at all places. She thought that was the safe place because whenever she used to express her voice when she was a child, she was beaten up. She was suppressed by her family. So this suppression continued until she grew up, and she did not even realize that now she's not able to talk in her workplace because of this suppression that has been built from her past. So when she realized this, she started crying because she understood how much valued she is and how much of strength she has within her, which she herself was hiding for the reasons of people pleasing or for making someone else happy. When
Mm.
she realized this, she was able to find the solution. Of course, it was through a series of tools and questions that we got to a place where she realized that she has the strength, she has everything that she requires to actually speak up before her co-workers and express her opinions, to be heard, to be valued, to be respected. Yeah.
Great, great way to allow the people to witness what happened in some event in our past, and that can mark us throughout our lives, and just take away all the confidence that we can have, in spite of not have nothing to do with your own skills, with your own worth. And also, that's like the root cause of not being able to feel empowered. And that also leads to diminishing yourself and not feeling that you are right in telling what you want, and you keep pleasing the others. It's just a vicious circle,
Yeah. Yeah.
vicious circle that they keep constantly feeding, because they please the other person, but they diminish themselves. And then
Yes.
they kind of look for the approval, and when they don't obtain that, they feel rejected, so they keep uh, carrying more weight into that
Yes.
low self-worth, no?
Yeah, yeah, very much. And when they continue like that, what happens is they don't understand, why do people treat me like that? That's how they initially think. But once they start looking into themselves, that's when they understand that it's not people looking at you, it's you creating your own picture. Yeah.
Is it the reflection, no?
Yeah, very much.
The
Yeah.
mirror, the mirror. You don't feel worthy, well, you are going to attract people that make you feel not worthy, no?
Yes.
That
Yes.
prove you right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And I also had one story in the book
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
have behind me,
Yeah.
where I also talk about that detaching of the emotions, because
Right.
in this book I narrate the story of a couple that deals with that emotional baggage. And one of the process that you mentioned that you do in your coaching, I also write it down in the book with the couple, because in the story they go to well, one of the characters goes to a healing place, to a wellness center, where he experiences that therapy with the coach, where the coach is helping him to go into the past as he is now an adult, witness the child as he is receiving the damage, or he's reliving the situation that
Yes.
he's having, but now he's the spectator of the things that is happening. So he's not that attached to the emotion, and he can see that it wasn't the fault also of the father or of the person that hurt him, but it was just the same story, the cycle of the generations that we keep carrying, no?
Yeah, yeah, very much. And until it is not solved, it will continue to be repeating in every situation in your life. So that is where, as you said earlier, it's important to recognize those signals. Even if you're feeling hurt, it's important to listen to that signal and take action, because if you don't take action, it will end up showing in another situation, and this will continue forever. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, this has been really, really delightful. So, what can you just conclude, Amrita, to help the people that is listening to us in terms of the path to peace?
So, in terms of path to peace, I would first say that it is very important to take care of yourself first and understand who you are, understand your thoughts, understand your emotions, so that you can realize your true potential and live a meaningful life. We all have been spending a lot of time like learning and accumulating information from all outside sources, and all that is required to an extent, but it is also important to learn about ourselves, how we react to situations, how we can actually look into ourselves and find those areas that are causing problems in our life, and try to correct those. We may not be able to change everything, but at least if we are able to regulate our thoughts and emotions, we will be able to lead a peaceful life that will not just serve us, but also serve everyone around the world. So, becoming a person who is always kind to yourself and to others would be my message.
Oh, thank you. That was a beautiful message to wrap up our episode. And my only last question is, where can people find you and how can they support you?
People can find me on Instagram and follow me at awaken with Amrita _ life coach. And my website is www.samsarga.ca, SAMSARGA.ca. People can also find me with my Facebook community called Samsarga-emotional support, and also email me at samsarga.ca@gmail.com.
Great. Thank you, Amrita, for such a powerful episode and a lot of messages that I believe that people are going to resonate with many of them. And thank you everyone for listening to our episode. And as always, I just ask one thing of you is just give a reaction, give a comment, give a question or a suggestion so that I can start bringing up topics that relate more with what you need. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we will listen to each other on our next episode. Bye.
Thank you, David, for having me.
It's a pleasure and an honor, Amrita. Thank you.